¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Hoy estoy muy contenta, muy emocionada como siempre de estar en tu podcast, todo lo que quieres saber del spa como negocio. Y bueno, la verdad es que tengo una invitada de honor maravillosa. Ya sé, parece que siempre digo maravilloso a todo lo que se me acerca, pero la verdad es que me rodeo de gente increíble. Y la que les traigo hoy, la invitada que viene hoy conmigo, es una invitada con la cual tengo el honor de haber trabajado ya 7 años juntas. Soy su representante en todo lo que ha sido México y Latinoamérica, desarrollando toda esta iniciativa que yo sí siento que ha cambiado al mundo spa y que se llama Wellness for Cancer o Bienestar para el Cáncer. Y es esta parte en donde quiero presentarles a Julie Bach. Julie Bach es una mujer maravillosa, la cual a través de toda su experiencia tuvo su propio spa, perdió a sus padres y sobre todo perdió a sus padres por cáncer, y de ahí se derivó que mientras su mamá estaba en tratamientos de cáncer, todos los días ella veía que su mamá le hacía faciales, masajes, y los doctores del hospital le decían: oye, ¿qué estás haciendo con tu mamá que se ve tan bien? Y ahí es donde dice: pues le estoy dando masajes y faciales, soy dueña de un spa. A partir de ahí, cuando su mami se va, ella quiere dedicar su vida a hacer lo mismo que hizo por su mami, por todos estos pacientes. Entonces empezó a hizo una fundación, y de ahí se derivó el que hiciera Spa for Pink, que realmente lo que hizo era: ok, voy a invitar a todos los pacientes con cáncer a spas. Pero el problema fue que ningún spa estaba entrenado para recibir pacientes con cáncer. Entonces, después de muchísimos años de trabajo, de una investigación muy sólida, de tener evidencia científica, de estar respaldado por los mejores lugares de Estados Unidos y del mundo, con más de 80 países entrenados, más de 1,700 terapeutas entrenados en todo el mundo, hoy podemos decir que Julie Bach es la creadora de Wellness for Cancer y la que vino a darnos hoy una conciencia en el bienestar en el cáncer. Así es que con esto quiero decirles que toda mi sesión va a ser en inglés, por respeto a ella, y vamos a tener subtítulos. Es el inglés que yo tengo, es un inglés que espero lo disfruten, ¿no? Con todo y mi acento latino, lo voy a hacer con todo mi amor. Así es que ríanse conmigo, disfrútenlo, que si otras se atreven, pues yo también. Muchísimas gracias, y ahora sí, welcome Julie. I'm very glad you are in my podcast, and really I am excited to have you here.
Oh, it's my honor, and thank you for having me.
No. And really, Julie, how the spa world is related in Wellness for Cancer?
I think it's a great question, really. How is spa related to people going through cancer, right? So what we know is touch. Touch is the first thing that I would say. People who are touched do better. They thrive. So on one hand, all the evidence, the medical evidence shows massage and people who are touched thrive. They feel less lonely. So that would be one way that spa and cancer can fit together.
But friend, I have to tell you.
Yeah.
What we have learned at school, if you're a massage therapist,
yes,
what we have learned at school and what is everywhere is about saying there is a myth. There is a myth out there. Mm-hmm. There is a myth saying that if you do massage, you spread cancer.
You know, this is great because it's a myth. And we met here in Mexico City, and I stood on stage in front of the top 450 hotel executives and said, there's no such truth to this, right? There's no truth that if somebody does this, they're going to spread cancer. If somebody does this, they're going to spread cancer faster. And all the evidence that's collected, it's collected by the Medical Association that says there's only benefits to massage. Of course, we have to take some considerations with each client, but I think that people just didn't understand what cancer is. And so we've learned what the cancer process is, and we've learned how complicated it is, that there's no way that this spreads cancer.
So, do you believe that now after all these years that we've been working together, you launched the initiative, and we were traveling around the world. I have the honor to be traveling, representing Wellness for Cancer to places, of course, Hispanic, where I speak in Spanish. And, I went to Spain, I went to the Caribbean. I've been able to do a lot of things for Wellness for Cancer. But do you think it's only when we talk about cancer, it's related to hospitals? And do you think this is a hospital thing, or why the spa getting into this?
I think it's going to depend on the person, first of all. Some people might feel more comfortable in a hospital setting at first, but spas, we're from the hospitality industry, so we know how to be hospitable, right? Where the medical industry isn't as, hospitality focused, let's just say.
Yes,
right?
A little more cold.
Right, they're more cold.
Lot of things, so they are a little more cold.
So we take care of people.
Yes.
And now the statistics are 1 in 2 people. 1 in 2 people in their lifetime will be diagnosed with cancer. So we have to upskill. We have to open our doors, because what's happening is people are coming. They're either being turned away or clients are lying.
Yes.
And I'd rather a client tell me, here's what's going on, so we can modify. Right? So again, all the evidence has been done by the medical industry. So when I stood up on stage, I said, hey guys, it's not like we have to march to the hospital to say, hey, we've got massage, Instead, they're looking at us saying, what's wrong with you? All the evidence shows it's beneficial.
Yes. And we have studies, we have scientific evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Really, every training we do, we show them with scientific evidence, because one of the things that Julie always want in her initiative and in this movement that she created is that I will not move if I don't have the scientific evidence on my back. So it's interesting because at the same time, there is a lot of resistance. I mean, here in Latin America, let me tell you, when I brought this movement, oh my God, it was so hard. Remember? All the rejections, all the things they ask. It was difficult, Julie. So the first people that start believing in what we were doing, they are like, okay, come, do it. And then what do we do? Because we still have doctors, old-fashioned doctors, that they don't like that their patients do massage. But at the same time, we have now new doctors, or I think more trendable doctors, I don't know, or with more information maybe, that are saying, go and give a massage, go and enjoy life while you are in treatment, while you are living this.
Well, I think you hit a very important point, is life doesn't stop.
Yes.
So we have to keep living. We have to keep living, even with a diagnosis, right? So spa gives people that opportunity to leave cancer outside the room. Let me be the non-cancer person for an hour. Let me get something done, really nicely done to my body, instead of being prodded and probed. And I'm really beautiful atmosphere versus the cold of a hospital, though I will say many hospitals are putting beautiful artwork in and fireplaces in, and do feel spa-like, actually, because they're recognizing that if people are relaxed, they will do better with their services, right? So in the spa setting, the person wants to come and they don't want to be the cancer person.
No.
They actually want to escape. They want to be normal, just like anyone else.
Yes. Which is interesting, Julie, because when I met her, in my experience, and I have to tell you why I decided to look for her, because it was in a Global Wellness Summit, and this is like a conference, big conference, with all the leaders of wellness join together, and we see the trends and we see all of these, and it was in Mexico City. And unfortunately, in that moment, my sister had breast cancer, and she had a very bad experience in a hotel where they reject her from a spa service. And she just called me and she said, Adriana, you are in the spa business. You have to do something. You have to change it. It's not possible. I have here my doctor's recommendation. I can do a massage. And she was crying and saying, I just really, the spa moment was a place where I want to be with my husband and I want to have this, relaxation, this time for me and him. And I have to tell you, I said, I don't know. Let me check, I don't know.
Right.
And I was like in shock. And I started looking and then I found her and I said, I remember perfect the day I met you. And I went, she was on the stage. He talked about cancer. Everybody was like in shock because cancer was like a new world. This is, I'm telling you, 8 years ago, almost. And everybody was looking at her. So she goes down. I approach her and I say, hi. I am Adriana from Mexico and I want to join you. I want to do everything. And she just said, sign here. You will be with me. And I think she made me sign with my blood. I believe so. Because we really have been doing, be myself, believing in what she is doing and see what we are doing in our Latin American community, but not only here, but in the world, Julie. Yeah. So one of the questions, we just finished a training, and very successful training in Mexico City, an open training. It's the first time I always been in hotels doing, but this is our first open training, and we were full. And unfortunately, what I see is that there is a lot of people right now with cancer. If I ask the people at the room, and you always say, have you ever been with somebody who has been touched with cancer, or are you with somebody with touch, or somebody here in the room has been touched with cancer? And in that moment, 98% of the room raise their hands.
Yeah.
And then you realize that this is something that is in their reality, and what we're living with it. So my question will be, how can spa learn to personalize these services? How can we put this in our menu? How can we make a difference in our world?
Well, I think that the first thing to do is to be open and talk about it, right? That's why I called it cancer awareness. So first you talk about it so it destigmatizes this concept of cancer and oh my goodness, right? So the first thing is you have to talk about it, and therapists have to feel comfortable talking about it. So that's the first thing, is getting people comfortable with the word cancer. A second would be training, right? And so for me, I don't want to see a cancer service on the menu. I mean, you have a person that's coming in trying to escape cancer. So the last thing I want them to do is get the cancer stamp on their forehead that now they're having to get the cancer service, right? They want what everyone else is having. So by learning how to tailor your most popular treatments, you can take care of a person with any type of cancer. There's very few times a person cannot have a massage or a facial, but they can have something else, right? So we want to be able to understand how to modify so it's not, oh, you had cancer in the last 2 years. Sorry, can't touch you. And that was the old paradigm. You would have people that would fly all the way to the Maldives, 19 hours, 20 hours, ask for a massage, say they had cancer, be turned away, right? So first, we need the awareness. Second, we need training. And then the menu, priced like anyone else, but you can have a scholarship fund for people. You can give to your community, you can subsidize, but just because somebody has cancer doesn't mean they want a free service. And we have to allow people to show up in the way that they are with dignity.
Yes.
Dignity. So we can't make assumptions they can't afford. We can't make assumptions anything about them. We're present fully with the client in front of us.
Yes. And of course that needs training and awareness. I believe awareness is what we have been fighting for, to create a world where you are not defined by your sickness. You are not defined by cancer.
Well, when you have 1 in 2 people will be diagnosed, people over the age of 50, most of them have at least 2 illnesses or 2 things going on in their bodies. We can't be the wellness industry for only well people when half of society, more than half of society, is ill.
Of course. And there is so many things about wellness, you know. Mm-hmm. When you talk about wellness and cancer, I love it because you always do this when we are in trainings, you know. You say, what is cancer? And when you say the word cancer, everybody said dead, sickness, grief, sadness, you know. And when we talk about wellness, we're talking about, you know, feeling good, exercise, nutrition, happiness, meditation, all these things. So how you join these 2 worlds, these 2 words and these 2 worlds?
Right. Well, when I look at the journey of cancer, the journey starts with prevention. So first you're in prevention, so you're eating well, you're moving well, you're sleeping, you're managing your stress. Then you get this diagnosis of cancer. The world is turned upside down. And typically the first thing people can do is to reduce that stress or to breathe, right? Some people go out, I'm completely vegan, I'm completely this, but not everybody can do that. They're just trying to like, who's going to take care of my kids? Yes. What doctor am I going to choose, right? So wellness begins wherever you are, whether you're in prevention or if you're in treatment. And then after treatment, and again, when we look at yoga, when we look at exercise, when we look at eating well or sleep, all that evidence is done by the medical community to show that up to 50% of cancer can be prevented with just exercising, eating well alone. All right, so that's a pretty big number.
A pretty big number.
And we're used to people getting smaller when they're in chemotherapy, right? Yes. They don't eat, they don't move, right? But actually what the studies show is if people exercised and they ate well, they did better with treatment. So now doctors are prescribing exercise at diagnosis. At diagnosis, you go and you meet with a personal trainer or meet with someone like me as a health coach to help you live better. The doctor's worried about, the cancer. So a health coach or somebody that can work with you to say, okay, how are we going to get you moving more? Yeah. How are we going to start helping you eat better? And then after treatment, where's a person? They're back in prevention.
Yes.
So wellness it's a whole lifestyle, right? It's not something you do once. Yeah. And fear is not a motivator for lifestyle, no. Right? So try telling a 12-year-old, you need to do this so you don't get cancer. They're not thinking about that. Most of us aren't thinking about that, right?
No.
So we have to find other ways to motivate people for wellness. And so again, a person with cancer might prefer to take a yoga class, might prefer to have a massage in a beautiful setting, in a spa, versus learning how to do exercise in a cancer center.
Yes.
Again, it's just going to depend on what's going on with that person and the environment that they feel best in.
So at the end, when we are doing this,
mm-hmm.
it's because, and I have to tell you, for both of us, it's a mission because it's a non-profit. Wellness for Cancer is non-profit all around the world. And here in Mexico, we are non-profit too. And the whole idea, I think, is to make a better world with our knowledge of wellness and really do that. But what are the benefits, Julie, for the spa? What are the benefits for a spa owner? Because, spa owners are always wary to make money because they have to pay. They have to do a payroll, they have to do all these and okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to do a training. Okay, wellness for cancer, yes, okay. But, what are the benefits if I include you? What are the benefits of putting wellness for cancer or train my people in wellness for cancer in my spa?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer it in a few different ways.
Yes,
it's a
great
question, and we're asked that a lot, like, what's the ROI on this, right?
Yes.
And when I worked for Ernst & Young, way back when I was a financial analyst, we used to look at the lifetime value of a customer. What is the lifetime value of that customer? So you have these VIPs, or you have people that are loyal to your brand, and they're turned away. Do you think you made them feel well?
No.
Do you think they're going to come back? So now you took that lifetime value of that client off the table to your competitor. Why would you do that? They're loyal to you. All you have to do is continue to show up as they expect you to show up for you, as they have always shown up for you. So I think that the industry is sometimes focused on ROI, and I haven't heard anyone ever talk about lifetime value of a customer, which is what my whole work at Ernst & Young was about.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, we've never really talked about it that way, right?
And it's interesting because let me tell you that for this training, I have a GM, very, very, very difficult GM of a property. And he told me, Adriana, please, can you send me studies and cases of the revenue you have achieved doing this training, on Mexico? Yeah. And I was like, a revenue? I remember I called you. You were in the airplane. Friend, what is the revenue we have of doing this for spas? Can you tell me the revenue? And I think we go deep on that, Julie.
Oh, I think it's what is the loss of a client to you is really the other way. What if you have a VP? I mean, look at the royal British family.
Yes, the royal.
The name right now, right?
Just the royal.
Right, so you already have two.
Yes.
2 people there. Remember, 1 and 2 in the UK are diagnosed with cancer. You have King Charles and you've got Princess Kate. You got 2 people right there. Now, cancer didn't say, oh, they're wealthy, so we're not going to, do our little magic.
He's a king. He's a king. Don't get no.
So you don't know, and we estimate at least 10% of clients that are on property at a time, somebody has cancer. There's not been one property, and I've been to over 70 countries. There's always at least one guest. Always. Right? But you don't know who that one guest is. So you don't know what the ramifications are of you saying no. Right? So you have to think of, how can I serve my guests? A training doesn't cost that much money. The loss of a VIP client or any client that's loyal to your brand is far more than the cost of a training. And I don't know, maybe that's what we need to do. We shouldn't have to, right? But maybe that would be an interesting little thing to see, what is the lifetime value of a client to a hotel chain.
Yes, and I think we have the old belief that if you do training on cancer, you will have to put oncology massage on your menu, or you will have to use special cancer products. Or I have seen, my sister was always on, my mom would say, like, both of them, they passed away of cancer. I think that's why I'm in this path and in this mission. But they always said, like, come on. The last thing I want to know is when I use a cream that says the word cancer every day in my face, which is interesting, So
yeah, so 20 years ago, it used to be called oncology massage, right? And then so I went to can't we make it sound really nice? Well, 20 years into it, I've learned that exactly that clients don't. Now, in some countries, they feel more secure with, okay, I was turned away for 20 years, but now I'm getting something. So something's better than nothing. And my whole point is, if a doctor can customize the chemotherapy, the services, and everything else to something as complex as cancer, come on, we can tailor a massage for anybody.
Yes.
The therapists can do it. You have to believe that they do. You don't have to take that liability risk if you don't want to say, hey, we're the cancer experts. Here it is all over our menu. You don't have to go do a big PR piece, all cancer patients wanted. There's many things you can do which would benefit the community, but you don't have to. And so some of our most prestigious clients who have been trained, it is nowhere on their menu, and it doesn't have to be. Client asks for what they want, therapist is trained, they hear the word cancer, they're not going to rush in and say, I'm sorry. They've learned how to speak with the guests, get the information that they need, right? That's part of training. Yes. Not to say, ooh, you got a bad cancer, I'm so sorry. Or, oh, take pomegranate juice, right? So part of the training is helping the therapist know how to make you feel comfortable. You were just vulnerable with me.
Yes, of course.
Right?
I don't want, and this is why I chose to be with Julie, and I chose to be in this initiative, because my sister lived that.
And, you know, I started the charity to send people to spas. Like, it was supposed to be a Make-A-Wish Foundation. That was my true charter, and I had to give up my spas. I had 3 of them in order to be able to have the opportunity to send people and to pay spas at that time for it. And I never planned to go into training, but the reason I did was because people were turned away. So I'm like, well, I can't send people anywhere if you're just going to turn people away. Right? But it was never my original intention. I had no idea. I live in Vail, Colorado, as you know. 20 years ago, they sent patients to my spa. They paid for 5 services for each cancer patient, 5 services for each caregiver. They paid full price. The hospital paid for these services. I didn't realize I lived in a bubble until I got out to the real world and was like, oh.
No, and really, right now, I think what we have been doing in Mexico and Latin America, I want to talk about Mexico and Latin America.
Yes.
It's been a hard work, I have to tell you, very hard work.
But the needle's moving.
But the needle is moving. And every day is moving more and more and more, because people has more awareness, let's say like that. And sadly, as I just said, sadly, there is a lot of people with cancer right now.
Right. And so with Mexico specifically, there is a wait, because we're actually working with the hospital systems in Mexico right now. And so there's actually a wait to get treatment. And so what is that person going to do? Learn to take care of themselves.
Yes.
There's nothing else that they can do, right? Except for manage this little monkey in here that is having to wait for their treatment. And the other point is that, you know, up to 80% of people do some form of integrative medicine. Notice I didn't say alternative, integrative. So exercise. Maybe they are taking supplements, massage, yoga, Tai Chi, painting, right? People are doing things. The number one still is massage. That is the number one treatment, right? Yes. But with people doing this and doing it on their own, most of them don't even tell their doctor because they're afraid their doctor is going to tell them no, right? So one of the organizations that I'm involved in, I'm on the patient advocate committee, is with Society of Integrative Oncology. And what we do is we educate the medical doctors on the role of wellness, of which they call it integrative oncology. For us, it's wellness or integrative wellness. So we're trying to educate on both sides together with the medical team, right? So that's important to have this united front.
Yes. I think there was, before, there was this world of medicine and this world of wellness, you know.
Yes.
And there was an article they made from Wellness for Cancer from myself and Julie, or for Julie and myself, I'm sorry. And, and again, you remember, the pronouns. And I remember very clear that doctor said that there is now a bridge between the medical community and the wellness community. And we are really building a very, very strong bridge.
Right.
That can change the world.
Because you can't have the medical people doing all the evidence by themselves and not understanding what we do. And in wellness, you can't be over here by yourself developing guidelines and doing your own stuff. And that's where we come in, and organizations like ours is, we sit on both sides, and we have doctors that sit with us on both sides. And that's really, really important on this bridge, because we're creating trust.
Yes. Which is difficult. Which is difficult, because the first thing people ask me is, what about the liability? Are we going to kill somebody in our massage table? I think really
that was the first thing that we heard from one of the really luxurious. I can't say their names.
No, don't say it. Don't say it.
But that was the first thing. And there is not one scientific study that shows doing this spreads cancer. There's not, and I said this at the beginning, there's not one scientific study that shows doing this spreads cancer faster. There's not one study that shows you're going to kill your client, right? But there's all these benefits on stress, on sleep, on pain relief and the social aspect of having a spa treatment. There's a lot of lonely cancer patients, single women, older men, right? And a spa is actually, and they've done a study on this, a spa is a great way for people to feel supported, right? So there is no liability. For me, I think the way we talked with some illegal was, if you do put the cancer on the menu, are you looking like you are the professional equivalent to with the same name as in a hospital? And so my take was, you don't have to call it oncology massage like it's called in the hospital, right? So we're just taking care of people. We're just taking care of people. We're not taking care, and I think if you're more general like that, there is no liability. And every spa should have a line that somebody signs that says their doctor has given them permission to have spa services, right? So I don't need to ask my client, which is what's happened before, I need the doctor's letter. The doctor's too busy to go write a letter for you to go get a massage, right? So instead, we push the onus, the liability onto the client that says, I asked my doctor, they said it's okay, right? So that's how we get around it, but that's how we've always gotten around it, pregnancy or anything. My doctor said it's okay, and you sign.
Yes. And unfortunately, let me tell you, you say, no, I don't have any cancer patients in my hotel or in my spa. And then when you are a therapist, you have a patient there, and then you turn around and it has surgery and it has all the everything in his body and, scars and things that can show you that he was or is a cancer patient, but he's afraid that you turn him away.
Right. Or I love that, because people, this is what we faced at the very beginning. We don't have anybody who's ever had cancer come in here. No, that's not true. Right? You're just not asking the right questions. You're not allowing them to self-identify for fear, or it's not on your intake or anything, right? So they're not identifying themselves. But again, with 1 in 2 people being diagnosed within their lifetime, you're gonna have people. Now, the good news is that cancer is caught earlier, and the treatments are better. So if somebody has a non-aggressive breast cancer or non-aggressive prostate cancer, they're close to 100% that they will live 5 years, and close to 50% plus that they will live 10 to 20 years. So people are living longer, but their bodies still have changed from their cancer treatment. So it's not just about cancer patients. Their bodies have changed. Their bodies may have aged. Their bodies may have a lot of other things going on that have to always be taken into consideration for the rest of their life, right? So it's not just a training about being in treatment. It's their whole life. Right? If they've had lymph nodes removed or radiated, it's their whole life. If a woman was thrown into menopause early, then she's going to have some residual symptoms, right? The rest of her life. So I wouldn't want your listeners to think that this is only for cancer patients, because your therapists face changes in people's bodies and they need to understand what they're looking at, right? And so it's very important to know the parameters by which they can deliver a personalized and a safe service.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for that, because what I've been learning, what I've been learning with all the people that we have been touching all our trainings and in my trainings and in my visit to hotels and spas and in our world, is that, yes, spa is a business. Of course, we are a business, but it's a business for everybody.
And what do? What is the top thing? It is harder to go out and acquire a new client than to keep the clients that you have. It's a retention game.
It's a retention game.
And that's what I would tell this GM. It's a retention game.
It's a retention
How many clients can you afford to lose?
Even if it's at 10%, 50%, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe in your ROI is not worth it. But 10 or 50%, even in this business that we've been talking, that this business, with everything that is happening in the world, with all the digital thing, we are a mouth-to-mouth business. Still. So if you have all these open services, if you are not defying people by what they're living in their moment with their bodies, by their illness, if you are really offering a menu that can be for everybody, because you know and you're trained to adapt, your services, then things can change.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I had a day spa. And I would have many of my clients come in twice a week for facial. Like, there was 30-minute facials, right? Give them a nice uplift so that if they went to preschool or anything like that to pick up their kids, they felt normal. They were my walking billboards. Everybody would say, that person has cancer. Look at how good her skin looks. And then they'd come sign up for a year of beauty with me. And I'm talking 14, 15 years ago, right? So I kept my clients. Their friends cheered them on, and I got a lot of new clients because of how they looked and felt about themselves.
And speaking about that, Julie, I've been listening a lot on this skincare. Skincare right now, it's rocking around. Everybody is an expert on skincare.
Even on TikTok.
The influencers and everybody's expert on skincare. And we see every day all these brands bumping and offering, and all these people saying what to use, what not to use. Why what do you tell these spa owners and these people that want to visit the spa if they need special cosmetics or special brands, or what do they need? Do they have to do a big investment and buy brands for cancer? I don't know. I really want to be from you, because you know what I do for a living, but I really want that you, in your experience, can tell our listeners that what is happening with the skincare world and the cancer.
So I think because a lot of the larger brands did nothing, estheticians would maybe choose products that they knew within a brand, or they looked for a cancer-specific brand so they felt safe. And so you had this cottage industry pop up of really cancer survivors developing products in their kitchens. And I'm not ditching them at all. They saw that there was a need. Right now, for the last 15 years, I've been working with brands of all sizes, but primarily the larger brands. And so they have a whole range of products. So you shouldn't have to go to a specific brand and, purchase specific products. Your larger brands should have products to calm the skin, products for hydration, products if they have even for compromised barrier, or if the skin is itchy, right? And many of them are starting to develop products as they actually work with clients with cancer. But it's not, here's the cancer product, it's here's the product for somebody with a compromised barrier.
Yes, which is interesting because when you and I'm sorry, I'm thinking in Spanish and I'm translating in my head in English, so I take a little more time. But so now that you know all this information, Julie, that now that you have all this experience, and I know you've been in all these countries, do you think Mexico is prepared for this new culture on cancer?
I think it's getting there. I think we've started making a really significant dent, but there's still a way to go.
And Latin America?
Latin America, outside of Mexico, they're again starting to have more and more movement. And for me, I think it has to be something that's trained for the therapists in school. Because really what's happening is there's a gap, and the hotels are having to pay for that gap, right? And that's the whole budget issue, because if their therapists were already trained in school, then the question just comes, what do I need to do on my menu? Do I need to do anything? And my answer is no. You can maybe put a Wellness for Cancer logo or a purple ribbon that says, we adjust our services for a variety of conditions, pregnancy, sports injuries, and cancer. Yes. Right? So there's ways around it. So we think right now it's a catch-up game. And the onus on the budget is typically on the hotels for hotel spas. But there's many individuals trained worldwide that we have no clue because we don't calculate that. But there's many individuals who have spent money out of their own pocket, as we saw today, that go to trainings. Yes. Right? So there's a lot more people trained globally than we know.
And that gives me hope. And because of that, I have to tell you that we have a surprise today. It's a beautiful surprise, and it's a prime news. Ta-da! So we see all this need. We see all these people wanting to have training. Sometimes there was a lot of people in this training we just did, coming from other parts from Mexico. Flying and coming and doing a lot of effort, and so we decide. And we are going to launch the platform that you can do on Zoom. Julie and I were doing this platform. So stay tuned. October, you will see the launch and you can be there. Yeah. So we are very happy. And Julie, thank you again for the trust. Thank you for coming here. So yes, you want your business to grow. You come and train in Wellness for Cancer.
And that includes the spa director.
Exactly. Please, everybody. From the front desk to the valet, to the people that cleans, to the therapist, to everybody. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for your visit.
Thank you.
This is your program. Thank you.
Thank you.